What is up, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book club show that me and my sister Anna put on. I am one of your hosts, Ben Pye, otherwise known as Espion tonight, because I decided to wear my onesie because it's cold and this thing is warm. And judge me all you want. I don't care.
I think you look great.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks. She always lies to me.
Well, and I bought it.
It's true. You did buy it. So you have to like it. Neener, neener, boo boo, stick your head in poo poo. Um, joining me on this wonderful journey that we call a podcast, a YouTube series, a comic book club, my wonderful sister, Anna.
Anakin! Anakin. Woo.
You are my sister, Anakin. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness.
I like that you made Kenobi also sound like a woman.
How
You gonna say
dare
anything?
you besmirch the name of Obi-Wan Kenobi, our Lord and Savior?
You're the one who made his voice high-pitched.
How dare you?
Soprano, if you will.
How dare you? I should also fix this to where this is actually in frame. Maybe. Ta-da! Technical difficulties.
I just noticed this.
What's that?
Vex's hand covers one of the stones, and it makes it look like a flesh-toned stone, and it threw me off.
Well, it is a different colored stone. Oh, I understand. Okay. Yeah. Like, all the stones are different colors, though. Well, here we are to bring just clarity to your mind and soul, Anna.
I didn't really look at the cover for this that much until today, and I was like, oh, wow.
Wow. We do a whole series on comic books, and you're in charge of the art, and you don't pay attention to the most grabbing art of it all? How dare you?
Well, it's usually by a different artist, and we usually don't count covers anyway.
You should still look at the covers. Anyways, as you guys can tell, our show this week is based around the Critical Role Vox Machina Origins, Volume 1. A comic book based on the D&D campaign that Critical Role did, Campaign 1.
Not the one with the donut demon, which I was excited about.
The donut demon?
The demon humanoid character that's blue who loves donuts.
Oh.
Don't look at me like I'm a fool. That's the only one I've watched or listened to.
Jester, the tiefling, the blue tiefling who loves pastries. I'm sorry, I thought the donut demon was something they fought or something like that.
No. Goodness, I know one thing about Critical Role, and you make me look a fool.
Oh, the greatest thing is I know half of our viewership are big Critical Role fans, so they're going to listen to that and have roughly the same reaction I had.
Look, every fan art I've ever seen of that character, she's blue,
has a pastry,
has horns, and it's always donuts.
Always donuts, okay. Sometimes it's cupcakes. I'm just saying.
Maybe we don't follow the same people, Ben.
Okay.
Anyway, she's not in this.
She is not. This is Campaign 1. That is Campaign 2. A little backstory on this. Critical Role, Matthew Mercer's Campaign 1 got picked up by Geek and Sundry when he was already a part of the way into the campaign. So there's a whole bunch of sessions of campaign one that are not in a video format. So what did they do? They decided to make a comic book of their adventures prior to what happened in campaign one in the video. So this is like the origin story of Vox Machina, hence Vox Machina Origins.
But
Um, yeah. So this first volume brings us through essentially the group not being a group yet and being kind of in their own little like subgroups and meeting for the first time in this swampy land. Um,
this was a
which
dope introduction.
Yeah, I agree. I was a big fan of I liked the art, I liked the transition, and I loved the description. Like just like all of the words in here is like they will save the world.
Eventually.
Eventually. Which I think is really cool, and I think it's really neat that they first show a panel of the whole party, or the end game party, I should say, and then they show an image of the everyone who's in this part of the story, and then they show the okay, this is who you're following. Anna, real quick, you know the guy holding the big sniper rifle, blonde hair, and the glasses. Could you just do me a favor and open up page 5? And I just want you to say his name.
I don't like this. Oh man, I skimmed this because I gave up. It was way too long. Lord Percival Frederickstein von
Musil.
Musel Klazowski de Rollo the Third.
Very good, Anna. Very good. I'm proud of that. I'm gonna have
I
to
just cared that it was Percival. Like
Percy.
Knights of the Round Table, Percival.
Exactly. So the issues in the book, Percival has a wonderful name. Yes, I agree. So this book, it starts out introducing each individual group that's traveling together. So it starts out with Vaxildan and Vexalia, um, who are twin half elves, one rogue, one ranger at this point. Oh my god, your camera is going to poop.
Mine?
Yeah, I don't know
Sorry.
why. I don't think it's your fault. Um,
It'll be better next week.
yes, it will because we'll be in the same room and it won't matter. Um, so real quick, just this first page, I have to say, love, 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 love um, the art of these people.
Yeah, this was like a nerd out for the costume designs in terms of seeing how they evolve. That was super captivating, and I got stuck on this page because, it kind of shows at the beginning of almost every issue,
Yes, it does.
and I was like, "Ah, so good."
It really was, and I again, I think it was a really interesting introduction to the characters, and I think this is going to be it's going to be interesting hearing from you because you have almost no background in Vox Machina. So obviously, for me, the story is incredibly interesting because I know the characters and I know what happens to them. Whereas you don't. So I don't have audio from you. I see your mouth moving, but there you
There
go.
we go. I accidentally
Muted.
yeah, because I forgot that we set up my delete button
Oh,
for that
Among
one
Us.
yeah,
Yeah.
to be my mute, and so I hit that by accident. No, yeah, so that was really exciting that I don't know how it's gonna play out, which I think is fun for any, like, non-DC and non-Marvel one is because it's completely a new storyline, you have absolutely no idea what's gonna happen. So it makes me interested to read more.
What was your initial reaction to the story? Because essentially we're starting out in this town of Stilben, which is
Mm,
right off of a big swamp in Taldore.
I know, it
Um,
was very Florida-like,
yeah,
except instead of gators, it's sharks.
yeah, sharks
Woo!
and fish people.
And a
Um,
spider lady.
yeah.
Big spider lady.
Um, and
Yeah.
the town is essentially being poisoned or cursed, or at this point the town doesn't know what's really going on, just that a lot of babies are being stillborn, which starting right out the gate being whew,
That was so sad.
it was, I can, things I don't want to think about right now, kind of thing,
Understandable.
um so yeah, what were your initial thoughts, kind of getting through the first couple, the first little bit.
So, I think I'm excited about this more because I know that it has to be good, but, like,
Okay,
as initially, it was so much text.
I agree.
So and I mean, for that, there were, like, moments where it was, like, the heartwarming story or heartwarming, but, like, that character development moment between Vex and Caliph that happens is all just done in text, and I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
but it's a comic, like, you can do that through showing," so there could have been, like, a flashback element or something. I felt like they relied very heavily on text for a comic.
What about that beautiful, like, thought bubble of her and Vex riding Trinket? You know the one I'm talking about?
I don't.
Oh my god, I gotta find it. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll find it.
But overall, it was just I felt like the comic was relying heavily on dialogue versus action, which then kind of made it either read like a script. Oh, that.
Yeah,
Yes, that
yeah.
was adorable. But I mean, that was like the only moment where you truly get something like that. And I
Especially
get that
the
it's also
Vix, Vox, Vax, Vex, and Keyleth.
yeah. Um, and I also get that, it's the first volume of an origin story, so it's gonna try to build up the characters quickly so you get to the main storyline.
No, but you know what? I agree with you,
But
because there was something throughout my second reading of this, because obviously before I picked it for this, I had read it before.
mhm,
Um, there was something on my second reading of this where I'm trying to, really go into the mindset of, is this a good comic for someone who wants to get into comics, or is this just a good comic for someone who likes, um, Critical Role? And
mhm,
I think you really, like, you nailed it. It's a lot of text in a medium that is meant to be, like, very visual. Um, but at the same time, like, it's the opposite of what D&D is. Like, it's a very, D&D is very narrative driven, especially Matt Mercer's world, which he's one of the creators of this. Um, like, he is very narrative, he's very descriptive, and I feel like there wasn't enough focus on the story that he probably told and
mhm.
showing the story, as much as there was a focus on let's throw these characters that people know from Critical Role onto a page and put what Laura Bailey and Marisha Ray are saying in text bubbles next to them.
Yeah, and that's exactly kinda how I felt about it, which makes me feel more inclined to listen to the podcast than to listen to or than to read the rest of the comic, which is
Hmm.
sad because, I mean, I do like, the fun art style of it is very cartoon, like, TV show or
Yeah.
movie, uh, to it, so it's kinda like, uh I will say I had a very hard time at some parts because of the heavy text.
Uh huh.
I got
No,
sleepy.
I agree.
But
Like
going
I
through
was going through and reading this. I was reading this last Monday, so I was reading it the day that we were recording because I wanted to have it as fresh in my mind as possible.
Me too. Well, I tried reading it the night before, and the heavy text made me sleepy,
Well, and
just
it's
because,
like,
reading in the evening always makes you sleepy.
and it's like I was reading through it, and I'm like, oh my god, why am I having such a hard time getting through this? And it's like, it's not so different than like rereading a book that you've read. Like you may really like the book, but it's like
Yeah,
you
but you skip over parts.
exactly. So it's like I'm kind of going through it, and I'm like, I mean, I know what's happening here. I'm just gonna, um, but you know, one of the things that that made me do with this is it made me really sit and pay a lot of attention to the artwork, more so than I probably did on my first reading. Which you know, I'm never going to complain about when it comes to a comic. I feel like I don't know if you're the same, but I feel like when I read a comic, I really am reading it the first time. And then I'm going back to the beginning of it and just flipping through and looking at each panel rather than actually reading it. I know that's not like
I'm
the easiest way to do it. Like you should read and look at the same time, but sometimes I get so engrossed in the story.
yeah.
Um,
I do it to where I don't do it like, I read the entire thing and then I go back and look at it. Like, I'll read the entire page and then I'll just sit staring at the page for a couple of minutes, or if it's, like, a heavy action point, then I'll read through all of it and I'll be like, "But wait, I didn't see anything."
yeah.
And I gotta go back.
So
So I do it in segments, but
I guess I might do a little bit of that too, but I think there are times where depending on what the action is, I might get involved in that and then have read through a couple of pages and be like, I need to go back a little bit. I need to just look at it because I gotta make sure I don't miss anything.
Yeah, and the same thing happens vice versa where I get really caught up in the art and I'm like, "Oh, wait, wait." And then it's, the artwork stops for a second and it's like this comical moment. I'm like, "I missed everything. Why are you laughing?" I'm like,
Or it's like you're looking at this beautiful scene and then the next page like a bullet goes through their head and you're like, wait, what?
"Yeah, yeah.
Like I got a little wrapped up. I did not have that issue in I mean, I had that issue in this book with the text and it did feel a little on my second reading it did feel a little bit more like I was trying to read a book and not a comic book. Now that's not to say that there wasn't like beautiful scenes and beautiful art in the book. Um
Yeah.
but it didn't seem like there was a heavy focus on the art. I think there could have been more focus on the art because the art's great. Like when you get a lot of these scenes that don't have a bunch of text in it,
Mhm.
like it looks cool. It looks good.
It does, but it and, like
And facial expressions are great. Like look at Vax's face in the
well, it
bottom right.
who looks exactly like Proteus?
Yeah, sure.
It does! He does! If anybody has seen the animated movie Sinbad, I think that Vax looks a lot like Proteus. Like, the face shape and everything and the animation style compared to this art style, I think are very similar.
Mhm.
Mostly only with that character and his twin sister, but that's okay. There are no dragons in Sinbad. There's other stuff
That
in
you
Sinbad.
know of.
Mister hasn't seen it before, shut your mouth.
That you know of. But
There's
but again,
so
so something that I do want to point out is I feel like this artist, great art, especially with the faces. Like these are like it's
oh, and his
they're
character was fun.
Scanlan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, and I mean, he had a very narrative role, which makes sense based off of like the type of
he's a bard. Yeah,
creature.
he tells stories. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, that played into it really nicely. That helped make the text a little bit more fun because it kind of broke that third wall, fourth
yeah.
wall. Sorry,
Mhm.
broke the fourth wall.
It broke the third wall a little bit too.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah.
but like the facial expressions are really good. Like I'm really impressed with that portion of the art here, and I feel like the artist also does a good job at denoting that the Vex, Vax, and Keyleth are all half elves. They do
Mhm.
a really good job depicting that. Yeah, they're different, but they're the same race. I'm incredibly impressed with Tiberius. Like he looks cool. Um, yeah,
I'm
I get
guessing he dies. I haven't
there's
read or listened to it, but I'm pretty
there's
sure
a
he dies.
whole lot of weird stuff that happens with him and the person who was playing him in the campaign. But the person who was playing him in the campaign had to leave.
Oh,
So
okay.
Tiberius obviously left as well.
That was
Um,
my second guess, but I thought death.
but and then like the fact that Scanlan's face is a very different shape. It's not as angular as the elven features, and Grog even less so. Like Grog is just a doofus with you know
Yeah.
he's a muscle with two brain cells. That
The character design descriptions in the back of the book were probably one of my favorite things to read about it, where they were saying how, um, when because they wrote this in the middle of their campaign, they had to kinda baby make everybody a little babyish,
uh
and so they were like and so making Grog, without his facial hair, instantly youthful.
Yep, exactly. um, but yeah, so like I enjoyed that. Again,
Mhm.
the issue the it's then like these scenes where it's like you do great at drawing these people, but the backgrounds kind of get nothing
And
in
then there's that
exchange.
and then there's very little going on in the overall box. Even amongst just them talking, there's no movement of any kind
Right.
other than the
Um,
speech bubble from different angles, and I'm like,
which I'm gonna give them the benefit, like a little bit of slack on the fact this is their first comic book that they've done, that the
yeah,
group has put together. So yeah, like for a group that I know can tell a story,
yeah.
comic book is a great medium to tell a story. Um, but I think this is very much a case of, well, you're learning it as you go
Yeah, but and I mean, this does speak to didn't you say that they're getting, like, a show on Netflix?
on Amazon.
On Amazon?
Yeah.
This does, for me, seem almost like storyboarding a TV show or a movie. So, in that regard, totally game and excited for them to have that medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, this kind of reminds me of storyboarding for films.
Okay. I can see that. And you know what? That makes me appreciate it maybe a little bit more as well, just for the sheer fact that I'm really excited for the Amazon show. And the fact that they've already like they did a Kickstarter to do the first season, and
Mhm.
Amazon has agreed to do a second season, like produce a
Nice.
second season for him already. And the first
But
season
the
hasn't
first
even
season
come
hasn't
out.
come out yet, right?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. I'm like, "I'm not behind
No.
already, in addition
Um,
to everything else that you're mad at me about."
it's just WandaVision and Mandalorian. Like,
Uh,
the two things that I am most passionate about, comic book stuff and Star Wars stuff, like, you're not caught up on it. And the thing is, it's not even that you're not passionate about those things too. You
I
also
know,
love those things and just
but
haven't
they
watched
take
them.
attention. I have to pay attention to what
Oh
I'm
my
watching.
god, if you watch them each week, they're only like a half hour each.
I know, but I'm a binger, Ben.
Not the
It's
B
hard
word I
for
would
me,
have
just
called you, but anyways.
moving on. My
Mm.
favorite panel, would
Um,
probably be
eh,
the introductory panel.
yeah.
I did um, like, when you saw the spirits or the souls sorry, the souls of everybody who had been drinking from the water, thought that was cool. That kind of, though, was very reminiscent of, Zatanna from the week before
Yeah,
when
it
we
it
read it.
very
So,
much
I
was.
kind of when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, this could be my favorite panel," and then I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
but then it's so similar to my favorite panel from last time."
Yep, you have a theme on things that you like.
I did though. I think honestly, my absolute favorite was the introductory one because I liked the de-evolution of the characters and how that was done was really great and fun. And it made me excited to see how they get to that point, which
Mhm.
is why I don't think that this being a wordy comic sways me from wanting to continue reading them because
Right.
the characters are fun.
I have to read
And
volume
if
2 again. I have to see if it's as wordy, because I feel like they had to have taken some feedback, and I can't
Mhm.
imagine that some of the feedback wouldn't have been, "Oh, you can tell a story with pictures too, sir."
Aw, you sounded like Bartok.
Yeah.
Bartak? Bar 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 bar.
I give her a "yeah" and a "hi-ya" and I kick her,
That should
sir.
be a onesie! Oh my god, I'd wear that onesie.
Yeah, with, like, wings and everything.
Yeah!
Um, getting back on track. Um, yeah, this was a good panel. Before we move on too much, I'm curious what you thought about the characters as a whole. Were there characters you liked, disliked more than another?
I think the only character that I wasn't as interested in was I'm so bad with their names because 'cause they're not normal names, was the dragon. And
Tiberius?
that's mostly just because when you see him in this first one, he's a very, like,
Hello,
scholarly,
I'm
intellectual character.
Tiberius Stormwind of Draconia.
Yeah, and, like, I loved Calith. Keyleth? Keyleth?
Keyleth. Mhm.
Um, she was adorable. I do wish that based off of, like which I would have never wished this, except I read the character, um,
Keyleth
like
is Anna if she were a druid, in my opinion.
yay! I'm so happy and okay with that. Um, I will say
Oblivious
though
to
that,
the world.
after reading, like, how they came up with their character designs on the back of the book, I do wish that they kept the floral tiara throughout all of her transformations because I think that would have been a dope through line. Otherwise, she kinda just looks like a tiger. See, like, look at how adorable the little crown is.
Yeah, tiger with a crown. It's not horrifying in any way, shape, or form.
Would have been awesome. They
I
said it was too comical.
I think it would,
Or that it was funny, sorry.
but I mean, I don't know. So when you think about it, like when you look at other comic books, um, like the first thing I think of is Beast Boy.
Yeah,
Every
he's
time
always
he
green.
turns into another animal, he's green. I don't think I think there's
What am I saying?
it's not a bad decision to be comical in a comic.
Yeah. So,
Especially
I wish
in
that had stayed.
especially when you're looking at this as a whole. And I'm trying to find the scene where she actually turns into um
The lion?
yeah,
Nah, lion,
the
tiger.
the tiger. Um was that in the first fight? I think it was in the first fight.
It's in the first fight.
Okay. Um but I think here she is.
And she's a white tiger. She's not even orange like her hair.
Right. And it's like you go from this where it's like you see Keyleth here talking to Scanlan, and then the next time you see her right here, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you just see a white tiger.
Yeah, so I didn't honestly connect that that was her for a while.
Well, yeah, until like right here. And I don't think there would have
She
been
looks more like
anything.
Grog.
Yeah. I don't think there would have been anything wrong with putting her tiara on there. But that's just, personal opinion.
But I agree. And I mean, her and Scanlan were probably my favorites, but yeah. Um, I did also and I liked Scanlan's character, back and forth banter with Grog.
Yeah.
Grog's character was funny. It kind of reminded me of Groot, just a
Grog?
little bit.
Just
Yeah. Um, and then Scanlan would have been
like
Rocket.
Rocket. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it.
And I mean the scale and everything is on point, but
Yeah.
Vex and Vax, I'm interested to see how their characters are in later comics based off of like how you end it with Vex saying, "Oh, you thought I was the serious one?" And we're like, "Well, you have been quite serious this entire volume." So, I would be interested to see how their characters kind of play out. And I'm connected to Vax just because he looks like Proteus to me. To me.
Oh
To me.
gosh.
He does.
No, that's what you said. That
Yes,
is
but you
what.
disagree.
See, and again, here are like you see Keyleth here,
Mhm.
and then you see just a random tiger. There's nothing on this page to say that she's going to turn into a tiger. Which again, like as someone who's listened to campaign one and knows the character, yes, I'm looking at that. I know that that is Keyleth,
Mhm.
but I
No, I was very
mean, you're probably looking at it like, where the hell did this tiger come from?
I went back and forth between panels quite a bit when you first saw her as a tiger, and I go,
Uh-huh.
"Wait,
Uh-huh.
wait." Which I
Um,
assume you're supposed to put 2 and 2 together considering she starts out as a squirrel.
yeah, that would be my assumption as well. But I think we're getting hung up on this
But the tiara would
one.
have been great,
It would have, and how cute would that tiara have been on that squirrel?
right? So teeny.
Like it's already a cute squirrel waving.
Yeah, but I didn't get that that was gonna be a person, and they seem to have, and I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah,
I loved her though. She was a great character, and I would be extremely interested to see how the characters progress for Vex and Vax
yeah.
and how they interact with the other characters. Because I think Vax would be funny with Scanlan just based on the ending. And when you first see the two interact, and then Vex and Keyleth look like they're gonna be the best of buddies.
Oh man, you'll have to listen to campaign one at some point because yeah, no, and again, I will also say another big thing about Critical Role and these campaigns are the the main characters and how they interact with one another. Um, and I do think there's some good growth shown because of all of the text that's in here. And to be fair, I don't think your average comic book reader is just going to see this, pick it up, and start reading it.
Okay.
Um,
I think that it offers a really cool new set of characters in a world that you're not gonna get otherwise.
I agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can totally agree with you that I don't think the normal comic book reader would just randomly pick it up, but at the same time, like, as a kid, I would have 100% picked it up just because I thought it looked pretty
Hmm.
with cool characters, and
Yeah,
I would have wanted to be Keyleth.
it's reasonable. Um, yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of potential here, and I think I want to find some more fantasy comic books.
Yeah,
But not like fables or, something like actual fantasy, like something that takes place in another world like Taldore or Middle Earth or, something
yeah.
along those lines.
It's one of
Like,
those things where, like, you always read or you watch a movie and you're like, "God, I wish this was a book," and then you read the book and you're like, "God, I wish this was a comic."
yeah, exactly. And this scratches that itch for sure. But at the same time I still want it to be more.
Yeah. I do also hope that as the comics progress, they're gonna start breaking the whole everything is in a box. Because like, the detransformation of Keyleth from the squirrel could have been, like, a side full body of her as a little squirrel and kind of devolving or evolving back into a person, and that didn't have to be, like, a verbal panel at all, it could have literally just been a visual element.
Yeah. And it could be the art factor. It like just the because I think doing this project, and I could be wrong, I think doing this project, they did a lot of like getting fans to help with it. Like I'm trying to think if I've heard of Olivia Sampson before as far as art, like comic book art goes. Um because if you think about it, like I I I imagine I think Olivia Sampson just did a lot of fan art and they just had her do the art for the book. Which, fan art and doing
Yeah.
comic book art, very different.
And I mean, if that's the case, props to her because great first try, like, first not first try, because I mean, she did it, first take.
Yeah. Official artists, online alias, Firestash.
I also
Um,
liked how involved it sounded like the cast of players was in creating, like, the small nuances of their looks. It was fun.
yeah, and I mean, that just comes from how much work people put into making their D&D characters. It's like
Mhm.
you have this image in your head of what your character is, and trying to then get that onto paper without being the one to like do it yourself is challenging. I think like when you asked me to describe Vale Morningstar to you,
Yeah.
it's like I know what he looks like in my head.
Although I didn't ask you, I asked Kenny to find out because
That's right. That's right.
and he
That's right.
sent me, like, a two-sentence thing, and I go,
Because that's what I
"That's
wrote to him.
great."
Um, I almost want to look into more info on the book. I'm confident that Olivia Sampson has not done any other comic book art.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And Kendra Wells, I believe, does a lot of their maps in general, and she did the map of Stillben in the book. So I feel like it goes to say that and power to them for not just hiring professional, like not that it doesn't look professional, But props to them for doing this as a like it
A
was a
complete new
project
startup
for the
group of
fans
people.
by the fans.
Yeah.
By the fans and the creators, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's a lot of good to be said about doing that.
I would agree.
Um, but yeah. I also I love the cover art
I
of
love the
that.
cover art. I do like that the cover art looks like the rest of the art in the comic.
Even though it's still another artist. But yeah, I agree. It's like you look at that and then you get into the book itself and you're not like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is completely different than what the front of the book looked like. Um,
Yeah. Especially when some of these stupid books are, like, sealed in plastic and you're like, "I have no idea what the inside looks like. I'm just hoping it looks like the cover."
um, but yeah, so I think I think it had potential.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd be interested to still read the others. It's not like this one threw me off so much that I don't want to know the rest of the story.
Right. I think I'm gonna reread through volume two because I think I liked volume two better than I liked the first volume.
Mm.
Um, because you meet Pike Trickfoot. Um, yeah. We'll have to look into it because I am unsure.
I mean, regardless, this has definitely turned me on to listening to the podcast more.
Oh,
Or that it's not is it a podcast or is it only a
they have it as a podcast as well as a YouTube.
YouTube series? Cool.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm obviously like slightly biased as I am a fan of Critical Role. Um, but at the same time, I do feel like I was able to take a more critical look at it on my second read through. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, should we get into some
Yeah.
ratings?
Sure. I will say also this, just knowing how long I've only tried playing D&D like a handful of times with as the like with the family campaign.
Hmm.
I wonder how long it took for them to get to this amount of content.
Um, years, multiple years. What I think campaign two just had episode like
No, no,
120
no, no. I
something.
mean just the volume 1. Just
Oh,
volume 1.
oh, like how many sessions volume one was?
Yeah.
Yes. Excuse me. Um, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's probably like one. It is one arc of their campaign. So
Yeah.
like if you,
But I mean technically the family is still on our first arc of the campaign.
yeah, but like an arc of a campaign lasts a little while. Um, but yeah, especially when you then factor into the fact that all of these characters are not all together for the first half of the book.
Yeah, and it sounded like the person who played or had Scanlan was part of a different campaign and switched? No?
No.
Well, that's how his character was set up.
Um, but the person who did Scanlan as a bard, Anna, like there's got to be a YouTube video somewhere of like a compilation of the songs that Sam Riegel sings, because every time he casts a bard spell, he does sing a song, and it's usually like a parody of some pop culture song.
1, I love that,
Yeah.
and 2, because I had only watched, like, 1 or 2 episodes of the 2nd campaign's
Hmm.
podcast,
Uh-huh.
in the very beginning, when I didn't realize that the donut demon wasn't in it,
Donut.
I thought that Scanlan's character was the one who was, like, the dwarf who talked in a really, really high-pitched
It
voice.
was a goblin. But yes,
Goblin.
it the same person is Scanlan.
Oh, okay, because that was the voice that started, and then I realized that the blue one wasn't in it, and I was like, "Well, new voice in my head has to be
Uh,
invented." But yeah.
I hope they do like a comic book of campaign 2 in the future. But I don't see why they would, because this they had the reason of, well, this part of the campaign wasn't, was just our house game kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um anyways, story rating, which always goes to me first.
Yep.
Gosh, if I had given this rating as soon as, like, right when I very first read it, I would have probably given it a much higher score. But and it's not even that the story itself wasn't good. It's just I feel like it could have been told better. Like, it was
Yeah.
an interesting story. It they hooked you right in the very beginning on, oh my god, what is this terrible thing happening in this town?
Yes.
And how is it going to stop? And they incorporated some really great character moments, like things that I feel like defined the behavior of each character very well. They incorporated it in there, and they had those moments. But I think with it being a comic book, I would have liked to have seen more of the story told in art than just in text. Um, because again, that's not why I pick up a comic book.
Mhm.
And that's not to say, like, I read. I'm always reading a book also, so it's not like I'm afraid of walls of text. Um,
No, but I mean, it's kind of picking up one sets a precedent. Like,
exactly.
you're reading it for a specific reason, and so yeah, remember.
Yeah. Um, so I'm going to give this. I'm going to give the. And I don't even know that what I want to give this is a fair rating, because I want to give it a 5, but I don't think the story was a 5. I just think the storytelling was a 5.
That's exactly how I feel, but I am giving it a 5. Like, I'm
Yeah, I
not.
mean, I think I am giving it a 5 as well. It's just I want to I it's like if anyone that's here that really likes Critical Role is going to be listening to me and be screaming at me for giving this a 5, but it's like I'm spoiled by how well Matt Mercer tells his stories. In the medium that he tells his stories, he's a really great storyteller, but there's something that it did not translate in the best way to a comic. And I think
No,
it still has the potential to translate really well to a comic. It just the execution wasn't there.
yeah, and I feel like I said, like, I am still interested in reading the rest of,
Volume
the
2.
storyline.
Mhm.
However, I will also say that if I was picking up the comic without knowing anything about the campaign, just based off of, like, you recommending this book to me, I probably wouldn't be all that interested in reading the next one.
Yeah, and you
I
probably
think
wouldn't
more
be
be
very interested in my next recommendation for a comic book also.
that too.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah, because, I mean, I think that me even only having seen, like, 1 or 2 podcasts makes me more interested and more invested in this than if I hadn't.
yeah, and the episodes that you've watched aren't even of this campaign. So I do feel
Yeah.
like the fact that you still enjoyed it, even though it was a different campaign.
Wait,
Um,
maybe I'll give it a 6 just because of Scanlan,
Scanlan. Okay. So you're
'cause
gonna. He was funny. Okay.
he was funny. Well, and his interjections in the story, even though they were wordy, made sense, so it kind of justified a little bit more
Yeah.
of it. So I think I'll give it a 6 because
I
I think his
almost
character helped that
I
wordy.
almost feel like the comic would have been really funny or really good if, as a bard, they treated it as though Scanlan was telling the story of the origins
I
of
thought
Vox
that's what they
Machina.
were gonna do
Um,
based off of how so first, when, you're seeing all of the characters in that first page,
yeah,
I thought it was Scanlan, like, narrating,
I could see that though.
because he was right next to the box, and he looked kinda like a genie omnipotent character that, like, would just know everything, so it's like, "Ah, he could totally be the one talking," and then, you swipe through and you're like, "Where'd he go?"
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that is an area where there could have been an improvement and they could have saved on some, but obviously I'm not the one writing the book. I am not a professional in this, but storytelling wise, that is where this book fell short. It's not that the story was bad; it's that it wasn't. I didn't think it was. I don't think the storytelling did the story justice.
I agree.
So
100%.
so tell us about art.
So, art on its own, I love the style. I think it's fun. I think it lends itself really nicely to the fantasy world. I think that looking at it very much reminds me of watching like, sitting out on the couch on, like, a Saturday morning just
Mhm.
watching cartoons or whatever as a kid or very, like, Young Justice-esque in its style
Oh
and
yeah,
how I
especially when you look at this first panel, you could totally see these panels
Yeah!
being like the opening of a cartoon. They will save the world. Scanlan Shorthold, Bardic Master, aka the Meat Man. And you can just see like the words flying under him as he's flying on that magic carpet playing his
Yeah, and then
lute.
all of it
And
diminishes
then
and,
it
like,
and then it goes to
eventually.
Grog Strongjaw, Grand Poobah of the Dedoink. And Lord Percival Frederickstein von Musel Kolosalski de Rollo the Third. It's like, you know, it,
That's a lot.
yeah, I could totally see like some kind of superhero show going through and like, and
Yeah!
it's like you kind of you just see like Scanlan on the magic carpet playing the lute, and then it just like kind of freezes as the words go under him, and then fades to the next one, and like Grog lifts up his massive great axe, and same thing, freeze it. Yeah, like
But I mean,
I could
even
see it.
something like an intro where you see all of them and then all of their little things just start disappearing and then it goes down to eventually.
Yes, exactly.
It's just super fun. And so I do really like the art style. I think that a combination of how wordy the comic was and then how they chose to kind of showcase a few like slower moments where it was just text didn't lend itself to the art, like letting the art speak for itself, which it could have if given the opportunity, which hopefully they'll do, in the next volume. So, for that reason, because I do really like the style, I just don't think it was so showcased as well as it could have been and as well as it should be because I do think that it's worth it. Um I would give it
Hmm.
a 7
Okay.
because it has the potential to really grasp me into a higher one. I don't wanna give it a lower score just because I really feel like where the art got stuck was with the storytelling.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
not the
and
art fault
I agree to an
to a
extent.
degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm actually more leaning towards giving it a 6 on art. Um,
Okay, so my thing was I wanted to give it 1 score higher than what I was gonna give it with the story, so initially it was gonna be a 5 and then a 6, but then I changed my story to being a 6, now it has to be a 7.
okay. Um,
Max.
so yeah, that's I understand the logic. My issue with the art, and again, it's beautiful. Like the people is the people are the focus of this art,
Yeah.
100%. And Olivia Sampson does a wonderful job showing face, like you can see the smugness just leaking off of Vexalia's face.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, you can see that Grog is, a strong dumbass kind of
Okay.
thing.
You look smarter with the beard.
Does he? Anyways,
I'm sure.
they the characters are done a great justice. But it's not all about the characters. There is also an environment behind them. There are, like, this is just absolutely horrifying. Oh my god. Like there are other things happening in the world, and I feel like environment was put to the wayside and not enough effort was put into the background.
I can understand that. And I will give you
And that's
because I think
where, like,
the
storytelling
background
is missed, you
yeah,
know?
and I think because the background wasn't so much of a forefront, I focused so heavily on the characters, especially given the story.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I mean, this scene was also just like here, it's like they just removed the background altogether. But I mean, it is interesting. It is good art. It's a good art, in my opinion. Um, there's just still opportunity to be had, even if, like, I don't want Olivia Sampson to not be doing the art of these books. I just want there to be storytelling in the background. Like
yeah, and I mean, it could really just be one of those things where
like look at all of this text.
no,
And
it's a lot. It's a
and I
lot.
mean, villains have monologues all the times and all the time in comic books, but that's usually like one page where there's a bunch of text. There are a lot of pages where there's a lot of text. This is pretty though.
Yeah, I really like this one. I was like, I'm not gonna pick this one as my favorite panels. And I don't even know these characters.
Well, and now you never will know these characters.
Exactly. Exactly.
But but yeah, I mean, in the background here, there's stuff going on. Like, but even still, it's like those are books. I don't know.
No, I get it. I do agree, and I do understand. That's one of those things that I'm sure if I were to read it again, I'm sure honestly if I were to read it again, I'd probably score differently and
mhm.
probably not favorably.
Right. Well, I mean, that's where I am. And again, I don't even. It's not the art's fault, and it's not the story's fault. It's the storytelling's fault.
Yeah.
I can't stress that
And,
enough.
and I mean, given that this seems like it's everybody's first shot, it also makes me wonder if the people who were working on it read a lot of comics.
Well, I do know that Matthew Mercer's a pretty big nerd, so he had
Yeah,
to.
but I mean, there's a difference between like you reading comics and me reading comics.
Yeah.
So I mean, like yeah.
Well,
I
it's also
mean,
it's also his story, you know. So he's probably giving benefit of the doubt. I imagine that, and just like putting words into his mouth without. knowing for sure at all. He probably wanted to make sure as much of his story got in there as possible. Um, and the way that he knows to tell the story is to write it out.
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of I mean, as with everything storytelling-wise, there's a lot of team elements that go into it, so I feel like for me to say it's not anybody's one fault, it's everybody's fault because nobody offered up solutions, everybody just was like, "Let's do it."
Hmm. Yeah.
Because, like, the breaking out of the boxes would be something to come from somebody who hasn't read or who has read a lot of comics and pays attention mostly to the art, maybe, or
Yeah.
just somebody who reads a lot of comics in general. But if that one person who does read a lot of comics in general was also the storyteller, their main focus is gonna be storytelling versus, and, like, plot line and development and stuff like that than
Hmm.
and the visual element.
Yeah.
It's like
So
putting on a show, which I've
exactly.
done that.
Um, so overall rating, Anna,
6,
same.
because I gave it a 6 and a 7, so I'm going 6.
I'm also going 6. Things are not
Yep.
looking great for me this time.
But things are looking great for me,
um, yeah,
and I'm excited about our next one.
I'm excited about our next one too. I need to start reading it. um, yeah, I mean, it was. I'm glad I had you read it, and I'm glad that I read it again, so
Yeah,
that it was more than just me like fawning over this world that I love. You know what I mean?
right.
Um, which there's nothing wrong with being a fanboy or fangirl of the things that you're passionate about. What is important is to be able to take a critical eye to it every once in a while. Just
Critical eye to critical role.
a um but yeah, I guess that's where we'll start wrapping up then.
Cool.
Oh, we should talk about what our
Next
next
week.
book is.
Yeah.
Next week's book is yours, Anna. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Witch Hat Atelier, the manga, volume 1.
Whoop whoop.
Exciting, exciting.
Yeah. I'm excited to read this one. I am excited to read this one. And at the end of that episode, um, we will be doing uh, the announcement for our next books and then just go into the next books the following week rather than having a week break in between, unless you still want to do a week break in between. But I feel like we can
We
just.
just need to do the dare then for
Yeah,
me
but
because I lost last time.
yep. We can we do have some wheel ideas. What I'll do is we'll record something separately and post that in the middle of the week. Probably after you're here, so it'll be after the next episode.
Episode.
We'll just release two of them back to back after I lose this this month's.
Who knows? Maybe you absolutely hate Witch Hat Atelier.
It's a possibility. But you would also have to hate Witch Hat Atelier.
I yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about it, but I'm really, really, really excited to talk about it next time.
Yeah.
I've only read like the first few pages, but yeah.
But yeah, so next week is our manga, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Anna, where can people find you on the internets?
On Instagram, I have 2 accounts. Anna_Riddick is my private account, mostly Hank, and recently I've been trying to, cook the foods. All Oriental foods, none otherwise. And then my second account is my art account, which is A Riddick underscore
Underscore.
designs.
Gosh, it is
I'm
amazing that you use social media at all.
I know. I need to get better at it, but
And of course, you can find me anywhere. It's BenPai. ITSBenpai. Literally, that's what I am everywhere. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. That's it. That's where you can find me. And remember, you can catch this show live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It goes up on YouTube the very next day, just to give you guys something to look forward to right before New Comic Book Day. Um, as
podcast.
oh yeah, it comes out in podcast form too. Pocket Cast, Spotify, iTunes, Tune In, all that stuff.
Shalom-Aste.
Shalom-Aste, everybody. Have a good one. Bye bye.